I started to feel like I had been released from some very, very restrictive capsule or clothing or something. And it was sort of like, I felt expanded. I felt so much bigger. It's like, wow, yeah, this is the way I'm supposed to feel. And I could see in every direction. And I thought, isn't there supposed to be like a tunnel of light around here somewhere? And so as soon as I thought that, I felt it first, I heard it, and then it kind of swooped in from this side. And the feeling of it was so hard to explain. There are no words because we don't have this here. But the feeling of it was,
I'm here with Ellen Dye. As a result of a head on collision in 1985, Ellen traveled through the famous Tunnel of Light in a classic near death experience where she met with a council of beings of light. And she is here to share her magnificent experience with us today. Ellen, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm really excited to talk to you.
oh, thank you. I'm excited to talk to you.
So tell me what happened, this miraculous experience, really, back in 1985.
Well, they say most accidents happen within 5 miles of your house, and this was true for me because it was Columbus Day weekend, and after a weekend of binging movies, I had gone back to Blockbuster, remember them, and to return the movies, and then I was going to go to the grocery store and then go home. And so I was going down the road toward the grocery store, and another car was coming down the road toward me, and all of a sudden, I mean, I guess he was trying to turn left in front of me in this intersection, but all I know is he swerved over into my lane, and I had enough time to register that that's what happened and that I was probably going to hit this car. And the next thing I knew, I was hovering above my car, 10 or 15 feet, and looking down at the top of it. And I saw the two cars, and it took a minute because I had never had out of body experiences or anything like that. And although I knew about them, um, it took a minute to orient myself and go, oh, I'm not in my body anymore. And my body's still in that car. And oh, so what does that mean about who I am? It's like, if I'm not in my body, but I'm here, then I am not my body. And I actually saw the other guy get out of his car and walk over and turn my headlights off. Reached into my car, turned my headlights off, and I actually had to go to court over that afterwards. And it was dismissed. But and I thought it was odd. But I didn't. The two important things are I didn't feel any impact at all. I felt no pain. In fact, I started to feel like I had been released from some very, very restrictive capsule or clothing or something. And it was sort of like, I felt expanded. I felt so much bigger. It's like, wow, yeah, this is the way I'm supposed to feel. And I could see in every direction. And I thought, isn't there supposed to be like a tunnel of light around here somewhere? And so as soon as I thought that, I felt it first, I heard it, and then it kind of swooped in from this side. And the feeling of it was so hard to explain. There are no words because we don't have this here. but the feeling of it was warmth, love, comfort, joy, bliss, ever so kind of diluted a little bit, but it started to pull me in. And the more I went deeper into the tunnel, the stronger these feelings were. And I really felt like, more than anything, like I had been released from captivity and I was going home. And it just, I was willing to go with it because it felt so right. It felt so real. It felt so normal. It felt so, I don't know what that was back there, but this is where I'm supposed to go. And so I got through the tunnel and I was in this atmosphere kind of thing of just white light, incredible white light, which probably, if I had had physical eyes, would have hurt them, but it didn't. And the first thing I noticed was it was this commotion. And I kind of looked over, and there was this whole group of people. I mean, you know, first there were like 10, then there were like 25, then it seemed like 50, maybe 100. It's like it kept growing, all these people. And of course, at the front of it were, relatives that had passed over. And the interesting part, really interesting part about this, other than that, realizing our dead relatives are not dead. They're there. They're waiting for us. They're excited to see us. But I was adopted as an infant. And there was never any information at all about my birth family, although I had always wanted to find out because because my adoptive family did not work out so well for me. But my adoptive mother died when I was 12 years old. And so at 12, I already had, like, the the initial total abandonment by my birth mother, or at least that's the way it felt. And then my adoptive mother abandoned me to death. And then and I never got along with my father very well because we were like from two different planets. And he was very critical and harsh with me. And then I got a stepmother who didn't like me, and she had 4 kids. And I kind of like got shoved over to the side because she wanted to pretend it had always been just my father and her kids, and I was like the hanger on that really we wish she would go away, or at least. And I don't know if that's how she felt. That's the way I felt that she felt. So that was, it didn't work out so well. And so the fascinating thing to me was, first I saw my adoptive mother, which was just, I to this day, I'm finally getting to the point where I don't cry when I say that, and grandparents, and a couple of aunts and uncles, and they were all like, we have watched over you, and we're so proud of you, and we're so happy to see you, and we love you so much. And I was kind of feeling like, yeah, how could you be proud of me? Because I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. I had all of these big goals. I was going to be a reporter, for the Washington Post. And uh, they offered me a job as the coffee girl, I think, at one point. But it's like I was going to do all these things, and get married and have children and have a wonderful life. I hadn't done any of that, and I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of a screw up. So how can you be proud of me? And they said, oh my God, you get up out of bed every day and you do your best. And that's on planet Earth, that's hard enough. It's not about accomplishments, it's about being there and doing your best. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess I did that. Um, so then I realized that there's this man standing there, and with his parents actually, and I knew him immediately, but I had never met him on planet Earth in this life. And he was my biological father. But I knew him. I knew who he was. I knew who they were. And I realized that, my family who were there knew him and his family. And they were all kind of laughing as it dawned on me that, oh my God, we all planned this. We all worked together and figured out this plan that would not only just for me, but each person involved in the plan got what they wanted to get out of it. And there was plan A and plan B. If my birth mother had decided to keep me, that was one plan, and then the adoptive parents were the other plan, because there's always free will. And I thought it was like, whoa. And I had read the idea that, we plan our lives, and then you look at some of the things that happen to you in life and you go, I would never ever plan that. And it's like, no, as a conscious human being, you would never plan that. But as a soul experiencing one of many, many lives, yeah, you try it out, because souls want to experience everything. And so if I can jump ahead, I have to skip around with this story. 13 years later, I found my birth family. And I found a brother. I have a brother. Both parents were the same. They got married. They got married shortly after I was born, not long after I was born. And within a year, they had a son. And so I have a full brother. And he showed me pictures of my birth father and his parents. And I'm like, oh my God, there they are. So I had proof. It wasn't just I was over there and I think I saw these people. It's like, no, I had proof. So that was that was enough to wrap my head around. And then I saw, I said, I got tired of seeing white, and I thought, gee, I wish this kind of looked more like a location, because as humans we're used to, depth, we're used to color, um, and there was nothing there except white and the people. But as soon as I said that, the whole thing changed. And I still don't know, it's really funny. I still don't know whether that was like the quote unquote hand of God, or if it was me as a part of God being a creator and creating that for myself because that's what I wanted. And I kind of think it's the latter, because we're all part of God, and there isn't like a guy sitting up in a chair in the sky who's God. To me, God is the creative force of the universe and is in all things. So then I see this beautiful landscape, and the colors are unbelievable. And the grass was singing, and and there were these beautiful flowers and trees and butterflies and birds and cats and dogs running all over the place. And all of the cats and dogs we had who had passed were all there to greet me. So if you're a fur parent, don't worry. They will be there. They're having a ball over there, and especially if they died of old age, they're running around like they're, a year old, and they're just playing and just having a blast. And so I realized I was supposed to go I was supposed to talk to somebody else, but I didn't know who. So I felt called. There was this path, and I walked down the path, and I followed that down through the woods and came to this clearing. And there was kind of a rise, a hill, and on top of the hill was this kind of like gazebo building, and I could see that there were people in there. So I walked over there, and I walked in, and there were about 12 beings, and they were all extremely tall, like 12 feet, and beings of light. And I couldn't see any features. Since then, I have come to understand who they were, but at the time, I couldn't see any features. But the love that poured off them was unbelievable, and they just kind of embraced me in that. And again, I mean, I stood in this circle, and they embraced me in this just total unconditional love. And it was like they saw everything about me, every thought, word, deed, omission, commission, everything in my entire life. And they loved me for all of it, not in spite of any of it, but for all of it. And it was like they made me feel like I was the best thing that they had ever seen, that I was the most precious gift in the whole universe, and that they were so happy to have me back with them. And they were very familiar, and in a more familiar in a way than the relatives were. And they said, yes, we are more kin to you than they are. And I said, okay, so what was all that stuff back there about? That place is crazy. And so they showed me, and I didn't have the normal classic life review where you feel all the emotions of everybody you have impacted in your life, but I kind of saw movies. So I saw a movie of the present life and all of the important junctures and choices and events and intersections of things, and some of which, oddly enough, sometimes it wasn't the big things or the big choices or the big events. Sometimes it was just the little ones, like smiling at the cashier in the grocery store. And that was like a big deal because that cashier was really in a bad way, and she needed to be recognized as a human being. So that was fascinating to me, that, because we have these ideas of what we're supposed to accomplish in this life. And really, it's just kindness. It's really just kindness and love. And so I saw all that, and then they showed me all these other lives I had. And it was kind of like I was in the theater in high school and college, and community theater afterwards. And I kind of felt like, it's really funny. I saw these images of me, like being burned at the stake, you know, and that kind of thing. And it was like an actor reviewing, their portfolio of work, of, oh yeah, I was burned at the stake in that movie, and then over here this happened, I had this kind of life, and then I played this kind of character in this life. That's the way it felt. It's like I wasn't emotionally attached to it, but I could see the progression of things that I had learned and how I got to where I was in this life, and what I wanted to learn in this life. But it wasn't completely clear. So I said, look, ooh, I just lost you. I said, how, why did I end up making such a hard life for myself? And it was really hard. And I know, I understand now that I drew up the blueprint, but why would I do this? I mean, I was abandoned repeatedly. I was rejected repeatedly. I was criticized harshly that everything about me was wrong and stupid and incompetent and unlovable and everything else. I mean, that's what I grew up with. And I said, I've been working on it, but I haven't healed all of that crap yet, And I said, why would I do that to myself? And they were just sort of smiling and saying, well, you tried, as you can see, you tried to master self-love in many lives. And it's not an easy thing to master, especially with dysfunctional human, relationships that are going on now. And but this time, because you wanted to do things later in your life, you were determined that you were going to master it or die trying. And I said, yeah, it almost killed me. And they said, almost? It's like easy for you to say. You didn't go through it. but but it's like, okay. And I said, well, if I wanted to learn self-love, wouldn't I have put myself in a family that told me I was wonderful and I could do anything, and that they would point out all of my skills and everything I was good at? And no, and they said, no, absolutely not, because then you would have been always looking for that outside validation and outside love. And they said, with all the rejection and abandonment and criticism that you got, it had to come from inside. It's like you had to reach a point where you said, wait a minute, I am not that. I am lovable. I am worthy. God loves me, or I wouldn't be here, you know. And they said, if you think back, you can identify the moment that you actually reached that point. And they said at that point it was just a little ember that got, the spark, the little ember, and you've spent the last, 15 years fanning that flame to get it going. But that's why. So it was like, wow, I didn't make it easy on myself. And they said, no, but you did it on purpose, because you really were determined to do that, because you have important things to do later in life. And you will know what they are, and you'll know why you had to master self-love before you could do it. And I said, okay, if I miss it though, you have to let me know. And they said, you won't miss it. So then I said, well, what the heck is going on? I mean, not just my life, but everybody's life. It's like the world is going to hell in a handcart. It's like, why are we doing this? And so they kind of showed me like the evolution of humanity and where we're going. And they showed me like the ages of man. Well, actually, it's the ages of the earth. Because it takes about 2,600 years for the earth to go through all of the signs of the zodiac. And when it goes through a different sign, it's called an age. So we've heard of the age of Aquarius since the 70s, 60s. And they said Earth is moving into the age of Aquarius now, and it's huge. And everything will change. And so humanity has taken the Piscean age, which has many hallmarks, two of which are martyrdom and suffering. and, and they have like turned that into a fine art. I mean, humanity has mastered that, and it's time to move on. And this is a biggie, because in the past, humanity has chosen, if it was time to move into a new age, humanity has chosen to basically be wiped off the planet and then come back in the new energies. And this time, geniuses that we are, we decided collectively that we wanted to make this change from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age while we were still in our bodies on planet Earth. And apparently it's never been done before. So it seemed like a good idea at the time, I guess. But so then they showed me, I said, well, is it ever going to get better, really? And they showed me, and it's like, oh my God, we're heading for the kind of like the utopia that humans have dreamed of for millennia. We're headed toward a time when we can all be, it's not all based, everything's not based on money. And humans have the leisure and the support to be creative and to reach their full potential, and collaborating rather than being in competition, and with equality and respect for each other, and respecting and valuing the differences, and knowing that each of us brings something different to the table that makes the table more bountiful. And in 85, I said, oh, well, is that ever going to come in my lifetime? And they said, we hope so, but there's always free will. So, so at that point, I kind of said, well, I don't really, I think that's great, but I think I'm done. And I don't want to go back there. It was really hard. It's really nasty there. There's no love. You feel like you're walking through hip deep molasses or peanut butter or something like that, and it's just, I want to stay here, and it's like, I'm not going back, and I'm not going back, and you can't make me. And they're like, no, you don't have to go. It's like, you wanted to master self-love, and you ignited that in yourself, and you've done it. And just as I started to relax into that, and it's like, oh, good, I don't have to leave, I heard, but let us show you what you can accomplish if you go back. Let us show you what you wanted to accomplish. Next thing I knew, I woke up in the emergency room, and a police officer handed me a ticket for driving without my headlights on. I was horrified. I was horrified to be back. I was horrified I got a ticket. I was horrified I was going to have to go to court and say I saw him turn my lights off when I was hovering above my car, all of the above. But I really, I was angry. I was just angry. And I ended up being depressed for about, clinically depressed for like 5 or 7 years. And I realize now it was because I was so angry and I was resisting being back. And our resistance to what is basically what causes most of the suffering we have. Because when we accept what's going on, we don't have to like it, but when we accept this is what it is and stop fighting against it, then we can move forward. But it took me a long time to get there. But after that, I really started like peeling off the layers, and I started working with my guides, who 5 years later, I was finally psychologically and mentally ready to accept who they really are. And I realized that they were lion people. And so over the years, I have worked closer and closer and closer with the lion people, and they always help me when I do podcasts or presentations or my writing. I do a free newsletter, and with my coaching, they're always there. And sometimes I'll be talking to somebody, and I'll get a nudge, either the idea to say something, or the words will just come out of my mouth, and then in my head I'm kind of flabbergasted. It's like, oh, I wasn't going to say that, but okay. And that's kind of the way they work with me. But so I feel like it takes a long time to integrate any of these experiences, and you learn a lot and heal a lot along the way. But I also want to point out, integrating an NDE has a lot in common with integrating any other kind of spiritually transformative experience. You don't have to almost die and go through having your whole life turned inside out and upside down, and you have to spend 10 years picking the pieces off the ceiling and trying to put them back together. You don't have to go through that, especially now, because the veils are thinning. And just having the intention to grow, and the intention to connect with the spirit world and with your guides and with your higher self, everything is accelerated. So you don't have to go through all that horrible stuff. You can just work on the healing part, and you will be helped, because we have so much help. We were never intended to be here to do it alone. We have so much help around us, but we have to ask for help before they can give it to us.
That is such a beautiful experience. And for you to have met your guides that you stay connected with, what a miracle. Um, you said the veil is thinning. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, so we're moving into the Aquarian age, and what that means really is that everything is vibration. Tesla told us that everything is vibration. And some things, and at different levels of vibration, vibratory rates. So a table, for instance, is at a slow vibratory rate, and that's why it feels so solid. So humanity is raising its vibration, and the earth is raising its vibration. And what I understand is that the veil between spirit and physical is a difference in vibration. So the closest, now whether that means it's a different dimension or not, vocabulary can be very confusing, because everybody has a different idea of what those words mean. But what I understand is that as humanity raises its vibration to reach the vibration of the other side, the veil between the two, which is really kind of like a vibrational difference, the vibrational gap between the two, gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So as we raise our vibration, it's easier for us to tune in to guidance from our guides. It's easier for us to touch into, what we call the spirit world, which to me is like the real world. And what's here is not real. It's like I was an English major in college, and I loved Wordsworth, and one of his phrases that caught me, back in the early 70s, was, "Life is but a sleep and a forgetting." And it's so true. It's like we come to planet Earth, and we're asleep. We forget what real life is, and we think that this is real life, but it's not. And so as you know, as we raise our vibration, and I will tell you, there was a huge influx starting in basically starting from when we dropped the atomic bombs in the 40s. There was a huge influx of light workers. And it was kind of like the call went out, and it was like, oh my God, we need an intervention because these people are going to destroy not only themselves, but the whole universe. And we need to stop this. They're supposed to be moving into the Aquarian age, and instead they're kind of like retrograding. And so, they went around and they said, who wants to volunteer for this? It's kind of like, do you want to go live in the desert, or go live under terrible conditions, but it'll be for the good of humanity and the planet. And it's like, okay, we'll go. And there was an influx, and there continues to be an influx of light workers who are, consciously on the path, consciously working on healing themselves and healing the planet and healing the ancestral lines. And as that goes on, as the vibration rises, then more and more people, you either, as the vibration rises, you either become more awakened, or you kind of go in the opposite direction. So we're really starting to see the divide now, of the kind of people who are moving more toward enlightenment, and the people who are like, oh no, I want to stay, I like all the material things, that's where I want to stay. And so there's a tension now between those two. Some people have said, like back in the 70s and early 80s or late 80s, they were saying that we would get to a point where there would be two Earths and they would separate. And I don't know if that's literal or not. I don't think so. I think it's like a vibratory shift, a separation, and it will become more and more obvious. And people who are getting more toward enlightenment are looking around going, oh my God, what is going on in this world? It's like, we have to do something about this. We're seeing things that we never saw before. And right now, I think a lot of people are feeling really kind of overwhelmed and depressed when they look around. But it really is an exciting time, because we have to clear out the old. We have to identify what's wrong before we can make it better. And before, we didn't see it. Everything was so hidden. It was effectively hidden. It's like, when you walk in the kitchen at night and you turn on the light switch and suddenly you see roaches, and it's like, well, there were never any roaches here before. It's like, yeah, because they were hiding, But now the light switch has gone on, and there's more and more light coming to the planet, and more energy. The energies hitting the planet right now are knocking people on their butts. It's really difficult to maneuver. And if you know what's happening, at least you can say, yeah, I feel totally off my center because this is what's happening. And to take care, extra care of yourself, to get extra sleep, to drink more water, to just, step away from drama. Step away from drama. Step away from other people's drama, especially, because they can like pull you right in. And start working on finding peace in your own life and staying in your center. And that helps with all these energies, because everything has stepped up. And if you've noticed, it's like time is going faster and faster and faster. more and more things are happening in a short period of time. It's like all accelerated. And it's overwhelming. And our bodies and our minds and our energy fields have to integrate all of this extra energy, and it's coming from our guides, it's coming from ETs, it's coming from the sun, it's coming from the planets. It's like we are being bombarded, because it's like, it's showtime, people, and we have to get going. So we're getting a lot of help, but even the help itself can throw us off our game because we're not used to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So we've seen so much happening in the world in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing in particular I want to bring up, because we are seeing this intensify rapidly, is the sun, the sun's energy. We're getting all kinds of CMEs and,
Mm-hmm.
solar winds and things like that. Is that what's contributing to our awakening?
Mm-hmm. Massive, massive. I think I read somewhere that, and this was a month or so ago, that we had like 16 class M solar flares, like by April, whereas, we had one, the year before. So yeah, the energies from the sun are increasing. We have transits of the planets that are huge. Um, and planetary changes, the big generational planets, the outer planets moving into different signs. And right now, I'll tell you, so today's July 17th of 2024. On the 15th, on Monday, we had an exact alignment of Mars, the planet of aggression and war, Uranus, the planet of unexpected sudden changes and things coming from out of the blue, and the fixed star Algol, also known as the Death Star or the Demon Star or Medusa's head. It's a very malevolent fixed star. It does not move, but the other planets move like across it. And so that combination of those three things, what everybody, all the, astrologers and psychics were all saying for the last like couple of months was something explosive can happen. So we had something explosive happen, something from out of the blue, something that nobody ever expected, something that was horrifying. And so we're going to be feeling that fortunately Mars moves fast. So, well, not really, not as fast as the moon maybe, but it goes along at a fair clip. So that's kind of going to move out of the equation in a couple of weeks. But Uranus is a slow mover, and it's going to be sitting on top of Algol for a while. And there's going to be some retrograde stuff back and forth. So we're going to have that kind of explosiveness. And I think Mars is going to retrograde back over it too, between now and the end of the year. So for the rest of 2024, expect the unexpected. I mean, it's just going to happen. So be ready. It's like, and explosive things can be weather. We've already had a horrible hurricane in the Gulf, and we had this horrible, that derecho or whatever it's called, storm blew through the Midwest. And I saw pictures where, 18 wheelers were like picked up and thrown over. by the winds. I mean, it's everything is like on steroids right now. And it's gonna be. And it has to be. We need to have this happen. That's the point.
Would you say that we're kind of like in the midst of it? Are we at the beginning of it or nearing the end? When will we see like the other side where there's, rainbows and sunshine?
Well, rainbows and sunshines all the time is not going to be for many years, I don't think. Um, but I do believe that 2024 is like the peak of the hard part, and that it's like we start course correcting in 2025. And there's still, it's like if you're doing a remodel of a kitchen, it's like, you walk in and they've torn out all the cabinets and you don't have a kitchen counter anymore and the sink's gone, and you got all of your cabinet stuff on the table and on the floor in boxes, and you're like, oh my God. But then, you know, y- you work on it, and little by little, your beautiful new kitchen starts coming into reality. And that's kind of where we are. We're like in the final demolition, in a way. And it's like we're at a point, especially now, all these energies are being felt the world over. But in the United States, we're getting a double whammy because we've been going through what they call a Pluto return, where Pluto was back at the exact point where it was when the United States was formed. It took all this time for it to go around the zodiac once. And Pluto churns up corruption, and it takes things to extremes so that nobody can miss it, so that it is no longer subtle. It is like, oh my God, look at that mess. And and so we've been going through that, and it's all a magnificent dance. It's like everything is playing its role, and and the poor humans are like, what is going on? But this is exactly where we're supposed to be, because now is a time, Pluto's like, okay, how'd you do with that, all those nice ideals that you founded this country on? Have you created the structures that will support that? It's like, no. Okay, then what are we going to do about it? We're going to have to like excavate a little bit and do a little tear down and a little rebuild. And so that's kind of what's going on. And in 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 the Piscean age, it was about hierarchy and top down. We're moving into the Aquarian age, which is about power to the people. And those are very, very different energies. And the top down people who have had all the power and wealth are not going to just say, okay, it's your turn now, and hand it over to the people. The people are going to have to grab it and drag it and demand it. So I think 2025 will be better, but I think that's when we'll start having probably more protests. It'll be probably a lot like the late 60s, with people saying, part of it is people moving into self-love, which is hugely important. That people will say, I don't deserve to be in a toxic situation at work. I don't deserve to be abused in my relationship with my family. I don't, it's like, I deserve more. It's that realization of, I deserve more. This is not right. I deserve to be treated better than this. And I'm going to demand to be treated better than this. So it's been funny for me to see, the younger people coming in, and I hear the older people say, oh, they just don't want to work. And I'll say, no, they don't want to be abused. It's like, and I applaud them for that. It's like it took me till my age to figure that out, and they know it now, and good for them. And that's the shift that's happening. So, the old way of doing, work, and the whole job thing is changing, because the younger people are saying, I'm not going to sacrifice my whole life for a job I hate. Whereas, the generation before me was like, okay, I'll do that. It's like we're all changing. And there are people who do not want to change. No, 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 no. And everybody else is like, oh yeah, we're done with this. We're not doing that anymore. So that's a lot of the tension that we see right now, is that the people who want to go back to the old because, hey, I had it better back then, and the people who are saying, to heck with you, your time is over, bucko, it's our turn now. It's time to let everybody have a chance. It's time to have everybody get treated well, with respect. So if you look around, instead of looking at at it as, oh my God, everybody's at each other's throats, look at it as there's a movement toward something better. And yes, there is a backlash. There's a certain amount of people. I mean, look at Israel, look at Russia and Ukraine. There are people who want to hold on to their power, and they're not going to give it up for anything. And because they see stuff being pulled out of their hands, they're making a big grab to catch more. So we're seeing the death knoll, the last gasp of that kind of activity and that kind of energy, that power grabbing. And we're seeing the birth and the beginning of moving towards something better.
That was a great way to describe it.
Good.
I really love that. It makes a lot of sense. The the power grab to kind of just grasp on to that last little hope of continuing to be in power.
Yep.
What does the world look like? Not with our eyes, but I mean, what's it going to be like once we get to that other side? It doesn't have to be all the way into the sunshine and rainbows, but once
Right.
we get over this big hump, what can we expect?
It'll take, I mean, I just believe that, when we get over the hump, um, things will start to change, because in the last 10 years, we've identified a lot of things, that a lot of corruption that we want to make sure doesn't happen anymore. We've identified a lot of things about our system of laws, where there's loopholes that are as big as a house, that need to be filled. And we've really started to notice, like, horrible inequities that we want to correct. And that does none of it takes none of it happens overnight. I remember in 2012, everybody was like, oh, December 22nd, everything's going to change. And I would go in these chat rooms and say, uh humans don't change that fast. It's probably not going to happen. And it didn't. I mean, that was a gateway, that was an opening that started this whole process. But it's not overnight. That started like a 30 to 50 year shift, transition period, from 2012, basically, or really from 2000. Probably 2000 to 2050 is like big shift time. And of course, we're right kind of in the middle of that, and we're turning the corner. We're about to turn the corner, and then it will, but we have this list now of things that need to be worked on, and the people will demand it. And if they don't, there will be more people in the streets, is what's going to happen, because people are, it's like, no, we're fed up. And the changes probably will not happen as fast as any of us want them to happen, but they will happen. And progress will be made. It'll be faster than it's been in the last 30 years, but it'll take some time, and but it'll start to simmer down. Tensions will simmer down. Will start to simmer down. 2025 will be better than 2024, but still a little, 2026 will be even better. 2027 will be, by the time we get to 2030, it'll be significantly better. And at the same time, with the Aquarian age ruled by Uranus, there will be incredible technology advances. So life will become easier. Now, yes, that will create a situation where, some jobs will be phased out because they're no longer needed, but there will be new jobs if you're willing to train for them, train in a different way. So, but it will make life easier for everybody. And medical breakthroughs, and I mean, it's going to be astonishing. The changes in technology and medicine and the different ways that technology can be applied to our lives. It's really going to be I think the last time this happened, not this change to the Aquarian age, but some of these alignments. The last time we had that Mars, Uranus, and Algol conjunction that we had that was exact on Monday was when Pearl Harbor happened. Talk about explosive, unexpected, horrifying thing. Not that that's going to happen now, but explosive, And then, but the last time we had all of the things going on now that we have, or most of them, was back like the Industrial Revolution. When suddenly, all of a sudden, they had gaslight, and they had, all of the stuff that was miraculous, like trains, the steam engine and stuff like that. It just seemed to happen overnight. It didn't really happen overnight, but it was so rapid, is that everybody's life changed relatively quickly. And so we can expect that. And people who don't like change are going to be upset.
Well, it sounds like it's a wonderful change and it's all for our highest and best good, which is always why everything happens anyway, right? So I've heard.
Absolutely.
Ellen, how can my viewers find you if they wanted to reach out, if they have more questions or they wanted to purchase your book?
My website is lionmagic.com. And I have a fantasy novel. In 1985, people weren't writing books about their NDE. And I wanted to document what I had learned about how life works. So I wrote a fantasy novel where the heroine, who's 12, goes to a parallel world, and she gets taught all these things as she goes on her hero's journey. So I documented it that way in a fantasy novel. And I still haven't written a book about my NDE, but I have a very lengthy PDF on my website that people can download if they want to find out more details. And I have tons of links to podcasts. And as soon as you send me the link to this one, I'll post it. And there's also information about my coaching. And what else? That's about it. Lionmagic.com. My email is lionmagic@msn.com. And I'm happy to answer questions. But just give me a while because I'm not real fast. I get a lot of emails, and I have a lot of clients, and so it can take me a while to answer questions, but I always will, I promise. Because I enjoy it. I like to answer questions and to interact with people.
And if you had one message you hope the viewers to take away from today's conversation, what would it be?
Let me check in. Don't panic. Keep calm. Everything is going according to plan, except we don't consciously know what that plan is. And the best thing we can do right now is take our eyes off of what's going on out there because we can't do anything about that, and focus on ourselves. Find peace in our own lives, work on self-love, uh, stay in our center and stay balanced, laugh, have fun, work on joy. All of those things raise our vibration. And the higher we raise our vibration, the better and happier our lives become. No matter what is happening out in the world, our lives can be like heaven on earth if we raise our vibration and we learn to stay in our center. So don't panic about what it looks like out there. Just look at it like it's a movie, and and focus on ourselves, because that's where we have power, in the moment, in our own lives. And it's all about kindness and love, especially for ourselves too. I think that's it.
That's it? Okay. Thank you so much, Alan. This has been such a pleasure for me. I've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you for being my guest.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it too.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.